waver from the children unless it's trending. When do they talk about the children? Do they only talk about it when it's trending?
The swirling vortex of celebrity gossip, conspiracy theories, and allegations of hidden agendas in the entertainment industry has reached a fever pitch, with figures like Jaguar Wright, Ollie Carter, and others at the center of a storm that seems to grow more chaotic by the day. The narrative is a tangled web of accusations, half-truths, and speculation, often centered on high-profile names like Diddy, Jay-Z, and Will Smith, with the plight of children and victims of trafficking occasionally invoked but frequently overshadowed by personal vendettas and sensational claims. The question that looms large is whether these discussions, particularly those involving serious issues like trafficking, only gain traction when they're trending, and whether the focus on children is genuine or merely a tool for clout. This narrative is further complicated by the enigmatic presence of kitty kitty, a term thrown around with cryptic intent, and the skepticism surrounding figures like Jaguar Wright, who some now label an industry plant meant to distract from the truth. At the heart of this saga is Jaguar Wright, a figure who has positioned herself as a whistleblower in the entertainment industry, claiming to expose its darkest secrets. Her allegations are bold, often implicating major celebrities in scandalous activities, from illicit parties to predatory behavior. However, her credibility is increasingly under scrutiny, with critics suggesting she's a calculated player in a larger scheme to mislead the public. According to various reports, Jaguar's claims, particularly about individuals like Bryshere Gray, are not only unverified, but may be deliberately fabricated to sow confusion. Her detractors argue that she's been deployed to derail the efforts of true truth-tellers like Cat Williams and Ollie Carter, who are seen by some as more authentic voices in this murky landscape. One of Jaguar's most explosive claims revolves around Bryshere Gray, known for his role as Hakeem Lion on Empire. She has alleged that Gray was manipulated and exploited by industry heavyweights like Diddy and Will Smith, even claiming that his mother sold him into the industry. According to Jaguar, Gray was threatened by shadowy figures to prevent him from revealing the truth, with a supposed lawsuit against Diddy in the works. She's also suggested the existence of a compromising tape involving Gray, Diddy, Will Smith, and others, including Jaden Smith and Justin Bieber. These are serious accusations, but they lack corroboration, and Gray's recent troubles, multiple arrests, and a shift in public persona from a straight, family-oriented man to someone openly engaging in controversial behavior have only fueled speculation. Some believe Diddy got to Gray, pointing to his downward spiral as evidence of industry sabotage. Others, however, see Jaguar's narrative as a distortion, twisting isolated events into a grand conspiracy. Terrence Howard, Gray's co-star on Empire, added fuel to the fire with his own story. In an interview, Howard recounted being invited to a private meeting with Diddy, where Diddy's assistant implied that the mogul was interested in more than just professional collaboration. Howard described an uncomfortable encounter where Diddy's intentions became clear, leading him to cut off communication. This anecdote has been used to support claims that Gray faced similar advances, but, unlike Howard, may have succumbed to them. Yet, Jaguar's interpretation of these events is seen by some as manipulative, taking Howard's account and spinning it into a broader, unproven narrative about Gray's downfall. Critics point out that Jaguar has a history of making sensational claims without evidence, and her awkward interactions with other figures like Cat Williams and Orlando Brown only deepen the skepticism. Jaguar's alleged connection to Cat Williams is one such point of contention. She claims a close relationship with the comedian, describing him as a mentor who taught her how to navigate the industry's dangers. In one story, she paints a dramatic picture of Williams sleeping in Kevlar due to threats from the so-called Illuminati, with Jaguar by his side during this perilous time. However, there's no evidence to support this narrative, no public appearances, no mutual acknowledgments, just a single old photo from the early 2000s. Williams himself has never mentioned Jaguar in any interview or public statement, a silence that speaks volumes to her critics. Online commentators have noted this discrepancy, with one stating, "She talks about him often, but I've never heard him mention her." This lack of reciprocity raises questions about whether Jaguar is inflating her connection to Williams to bolster her credibility. Her interaction with Orlando Brown, another controversial figure, is equally telling. During an interview, the two appeared to get along, even adopting a playful mother-son dynamic. But the mood shifted abruptly when Brown confronted Jaguar about a disturbing incident, her alleged act of throwing her son's ashes on people. This accusation, tied to the death of Jaguar's 25-year-old son, Giovanni G. Wright, in 2018, is one of the most bizarre and unsettling elements of her story. Little is known about Giovanni's death, but Jaguar's behavior afterward, described as hysterical and possibly tied to voodoo practices, has led some to speculate that she moved to the dark side and became a mouthpiece for industry agendas. Brown's confrontation, where he repeatedly questioned why she would desecrate her son's remains, was intense and left viewers puzzled. Jaguar's response was evasive, further fueling distrust. The incident, combined with her lack of transparency about her son's death, has led many to question her motives and mental state. In contrast, Ollie Carter has emerged as a figure some view as more authentic, particularly when it comes to advocating for children allegedly caught in trafficking networks. Carter's rhetoric focuses heavily on the plight of these victims, emphasizing that it's about the children and not personal fame. Her delivery, marked by heavy pauses and emotional weight, is seen by supporters as a sign of genuine trauma, contrasting with Jaguar's polished, almost rehearsed style. Carter has accused Jaguar of being an industry plant, pointing out that Jaguar often seeks sponsorships and subscriptions, which Carter sees as inconsistent with true advocacy. The two have clashed publicly, with Jaguar allegedly mocking Carter and even taking responsibility for her brief disappearance from social media. Carter, in turn, has referred to Jaguar as a big kitty, a thinly veiled jab that plays into the kitty motif, a term that seems to symbolize deceit or betrayal in this context. The kitty reference is particularly intriguing, as it appears to be a coded way of calling out those who pretend to be allies but are secretly working against the cause. Carter's use of the phrase, coupled with her claim of receiving threats from big kitties, suggests she views Jaguar as a predator in disguise, a wolf in truth-teller's clothing. Jaguar, for her part, has dismissed these accusations as lies, insisting that Carter and her supporters are trying to smear her. The back and forth has left observers divided, with some believing Carter's focus on children and her emotional authenticity make her the more credible figure, while others see Jaguar's boldness as a sign of courage in the face of industry backlash. The question of when and why the conversation turns to children is a critical one. Carter's supporters argue that she consistently centers her advocacy on protecting vulnerable children, regardless of whether the topic is trending. Her stories of personal trauma and her efforts to expose alleged trafficking networks are seen as unwavering, even when the public's attention shifts elsewhere. Jaguar, however, is criticized for only invoking children when it suits her narrative or garners attention. Her claims about attending Diddy's parties as an observer who helps victims escape are met with skepticism, as no one has come forward to corroborate her role as a savior. This absence of witnesses, combined with her tendency to focus on sensational celebrity gossip, leads many to question whether her concern for children is genuine or opportunistic. The broader issue of trafficking, particularly involving children, is a serious one that often gets lost in the noise of these public feuds. Carter's emphasis on the systemic nature of the problem, alleging involvement from schools, gravediggers, and everyday institutions, resonates with those who believe the issue is widespread but underreported. Her emotional recounting of begging to stay with an abuser to avoid worse fates is chilling and lends weight to her claims. However, the lack of concrete evidence and the chaotic nature of these discussions make it difficult to separate fact from fiction. Jaguar's detractors argue that her wild claims about Illuminati threats, secret tapes, and industry-wide conspiracies dilute the focus on real victims and create a circus-like atmosphere that distracts from the truth. The public's response to this saga is a mix of fascination and frustration. Social media is rife with opinions, with some users dismissing Jaguar outright after her admission of lying about Carter. One commenter noted, "Jag made a video talking about how she lied on a lie. She was laughing the whole time. I turned her off because that was just ridiculous." Others rally behind Carter, citing her lack of interest in fame or money as evidence of her sincerity. Ollie Carter has never asked for money or fame, just to help the children, one supporter wrote. Meanwhile, a third perspective questions both figures, suggesting that the entire drama is a distraction from larger issues. Something about Jaguar Wright ain't right, one user commented, but what grand secret is waiting to be revealed?